Good evening, and as they say in Australia, g'day, Bitcoiners. I have Nicki Sharma with me, who is in Australia, getting ready to go to school again here for another round. Going to school in down south for us. She is a Gen Z Bitcoiner and a podcaster who very recently turned 20 and is putting in some real proof of work. It's been very impressive to watch her grow. She is the most properly financially awakened person that I know at her age. As I've watched her content and listened to her conversations, I'm just very impressed that she's quite alert and aware and helping educate other Gen Zs and people of all ages about not just Bitcoin, but starting to, how to build with AI and protect your savings with Bitcoin. She's cranking out several videos a week, and she brings a youthful, positive energy to the Bitcoin community. She's a computer science student and a systems thinker, which we'll talk about. And her Orange Peel podcast breaks down AI, inflation, career risks, and Bitcoin through a builder's lens. A lot of stuff, a lot of energy, and things that are pertinent to other fellow students or Gen Zers who are kind of looking for their direction and purpose, perhaps. So, Nicki, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me and for that wonderful intro. I feel very, very flattered.
It's amazing what you're doing because everyone feels late. I mean, and people who've been in for a while, they all felt late years ago, and yet I was thinking about this, pondering it this past weekend. I kind of had some epiphany feelings about just how early we are. We're all just so early. We see things in the macro environment, and I mean, like with the fiat Bitcoin price, we've been grinding on that for a while. So you get into it more heavily like last year. You make some decisions, you just go do it, you hit record, you start going, and we're writing the price on down. Isn't it hard to orange people when they're thinking fiat like that?
100%. 100%. I think one of the things with Gen Z as well is we feel like we've totally missed the mark on Bitcoin because the price has gone up to an amount that, we really don't have at our disposal at any given
Mhm.
point in time. So I would say with all of this price action, it's definitely trickier to get my friends to start caring about Bitcoin or even just like give it a first or second thought.
Mhm.
But as I like to say, the price going down is really, really great for Gen Z because we can get more bang for our buck. So
Yeah,
I'd say I'm a happy camper right now. My dollars are getting further, getting more sats, and yeah.
exactly. It's for anyone who's new, or if you've ridden it up and down. I mean, the lows are always generally kind of higher lows, so it's a roller coaster ride. But time preference. It's a great opportunity to get in now if you feel like you were late. Well, hey, if it was too expensive for you or felt like you were late at 100K, um, get it now where it's got the dips going on. Now, when it comes to youth, it's easy to have a high time preference, or you're not always thinking about, like, I didn't, even as I was working and had a career in my 20s into my 30s, I wasn't thinking really hard about investing, and it didn't really
Mhm.
click till I started to kind of have family or feel like I was old. So for young adults, combination of things are going on here that you can maybe describe better than I'm going to imagine here, but you kind of feel like you were left behind, perhaps, or with AI and other things like taking jobs or things are changing. You're like, well, what am I going to do? Like what I thought I might do is changing, or um, you're not thinking about in 10 years, like, what does that mean? Or retirement, what is that? Social Security, is that
Yeah.
going to exist? All the things. Youth and I just say, guys, Gen Z folks are often kind of feeling like maybe a little impulsive, left behind, maybe a little bit more of a sense of uh, taking a shot and gambling. You mentioned something about, more prone to things like lottery or just like, how do you get yours? Now you talk about this all the time, but break it down a little bit, kind of the Gen Z mindset approaching finance generally, but Bitcoin too.
Yeah. So I'll start this off by saying I think Gen Z right now is in a place where we feel like we need to do anything that or we feel like we have to do anything that we can just to get kind of off to the same starter footing their
Mm.
parents were at when they were in college. So that's where you see this rise in things like gambling and sports betting, because people are looking for ways to make a quick buck. They're looking for
Mm.
ways to cash out and do it quickly. So I do think that a lot of this doom and gloom is justified, as you were saying, with AI coming in and the job market not looking the same. And of course, there's inflation and the fact that, fiat money is broken as a fundamental. But it really does come down to the fact that Gen Z does not have a low time preference at all. I mean, our time preference is probably the worst out of all of the generations that come before us.
You're
And I
used to
think it's
having
going to
things
get,
just kind of right at hand quickly, I mean, like
yeah,
kind of right
absolutely.
now. Yeah.
Yep, yep. So it came to us through, the introduction of the iPhone and widespread use of the internet. And for the generation that's after us, who are going to be very AI native, I think that they are going to be exponentially less patient than Gen Z
Mm.
is. So I'm intrigued to see how that generation is going to turn out. But back to the point, we're looking for ways to make quick money. And so we just want to cash in and we want to cash out very, very quickly, which is why I think Bitcoin is not super popular in Gen Z as compared to, other cryptocurrencies like Ethereum or Solana, XRP, because those are
Hmm.
places that you can go to make quick money, right? We've missed the mark on Bitcoin when it comes to just coming into cash out. Pretty much impossible now. So, what I will say is we're very financially nihilistic, but it makes sense. And I think we're a generation that's very confused, that's very, young and trying to find our way in the world. So that's what I try to do over on my channel, kind of break down a lot of the mindset that Gen Z is in, especially for older people, because I think we tend to get a really bad rep where people are like, Gen Z doesn't want to work, Gen Z has no value for money, when in reality, the case is just that the future that we envisioned for ourselves and that we planned for and worked for pretty much all of our lives it's now being told to us that we can't even have that.
Mm.
So that's what I tried to do over at my channel, and I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, totally. It's important to get a message from someone that they would relate to, thinking about the things that they're thinking about. And I mean, humans, people that I think of and meet with generally at work or around about socially, it's all fiat thinking. So you're always pricing Bitcoin in dollars. You're thinking in terms of dollars. It's just the natural language of money that we translate everything in. So people look at Bitcoin just fiat, 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 and so they're looking at the price. Um, and also some people, perhaps older folks, but they don't like the volatility. The Gen Z, I guess I might imagine, if you're looking at the game of it, you think of betting or other things, maybe volatility is good, but you're getting into it from a sense of a quick trade, or I'm going to like time it, or I'm going to be real smart about it. Ultimately being gambling, you had a point you made in one podcast where, I mean, 90% of that kind of stock market or otherwise, that whole casino of it, 90% of people get wrecked or don't really
Yeah.
make the money on the day trading. And sometimes through pain or, experience, when you've played there and you got a little burned, you come to more of a conclusion that, okay, I'm going to stay humble and stack and play the long game, which is probably easier to do when things bottom out and just start to do creep up, or little pops. That's when people might come around again more readily, perhaps. All of this
Mhm.
might get easier regardless of age when the fiat number starts steadily rising again, you think?
I think so. What I will say here is that I think the volatility in the price is actually something that attracts Gen Z towards Bitcoin, because we're drawn to that. Oh, this we can buy it for cheap, and then it can moon really, really quickly, and we can cash out and make a lot of money.
Hmm.
So I think that this is something that attracts Gen Z, and what we need to do going forward is build the conviction to get them to stay in Bitcoin and not just cash back out to go back to, US dollars or Australian dollars or whatever it is.
Hmm.
So getting Gen Z into Bitcoin is definitely a bit of a different journey because it requires Bitcoin to be kind of shaped and framed differently, presented differently. Yeah, we can go deeper into that in a little bit if that's what you'd want to talk about. But
we have a comment from Marcelo in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So you imagine a lot of these countries, they've got fiat money. Now they have a relatively newer president changing the economy there quite a bit. But
yes.
now I'm not sure how old you are, Marcelo, but a lot of people think it's too volatile. I run into that all the time. And in Argentina, they like to buy dollars as a store of value as opposed to holding pesos. So like you get paid and you want to quickly get out of that and into something. I heard your dad on one of your Sunday podcasts with your dad, who, by the way, what an amazing dad to have. He is so informed and can cover all the finance stuff. He's so based. I love
Yes.
it. And he was, you and he were talking a bit about stable coins for a while. So some people, like in other countries as well, they see stable coins as a place to land. But again, it's a representation of that same old fiat. Whereas if you see anything tied to, say, the dollar or that fiat currency, it is a melting ice cube. It just, yeah, it might ride down more slowly for your relative economy, but or your other local fiat, but it still is just a steady death glide. So, and that's where you can translate. You know, people are thinking about, oh, crypto or that good volatility or the hustle of the crypto and the shit coins. Maybe stable coins are more stable. All of that ultimately is just not nearly as good and pure as the rules of Bitcoin. Bitcoin being the only real hard property that you can really hold. So when you orange pill people and then they come back to you later and they're like, hey, I just heard about XRP though. What about XRP? Do you ever get weary kind of re-explaining again the next step for them? My pendulum on orange coins swings sometimes where I'll push hard to orange pill and feel good about it. And then I'll kind of get tired and be like, you know what? I don't have time to explain every day. So
Yeah.
do you keep mustering good energy for orange pilling?
So I think yes, because this is something that obviously I am very passionate about, hence the podcast, but it's also where I see my future heading financially. So because I have found kind of security or at least some sort of comfort in the fact that I have Bitcoin to kind of protect my financial future.
Mm-hmm.
Um, no matter how many times my friends come back to me and they're like, Bitcoin is very up and down right now. I don't know if I want to try it yet. I am okay kind of sitting them down again and then re-explaining things or re-asking those questions. Yeah.
You can
Sorry,
say,
it
hey,
looks like I've
go listen to
lost.
my podcast. I have a video on that. Go here. I don't have to tell you again every time. Hey, go check out my video.
Yeah, pretty much.
Now, how was it? One, I was curious, how did you end up from Seattle down to Australia, of all places? That's quite an adventure to go on. Were you feeling like, I want to go see something totally different? I've met a lot of very base Australian Bitcoiners at conferences and elsewhere. I think in Australia, they might see it and feel it in a different way. You think Australians are more open to Bitcoin generally, or what do you think compared to where the States?
This is an interesting question. I think I haven't really noticed much of a difference just because the people that I'm talking to in both the US and Australia are kind of the same demographic. They're college students, right? So I would say that I haven't noticed much. Obviously, I've been able to orange pill more of my friends down here in Australia, but I think that's just because I'm seeing them in person and kind of every time we hang out, I'm hammering back in on this Bitcoin topic. So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting point because there are a lot of really cool Australian Bitcoiners. Sean Clark from Good Day
Yep.
Bitcoin is one of them. He's super great. And then obviously there are a few more. There's Joey with Sats Venture. Anya with the Honest Money Show are just a few of the ones that I love. But yeah, no, interesting question.
Yeah, and there's another guy who was born in Australia, and at one point I think he worked for Swan. But there's a guy named Vijay Boyapati. He wrote a book called "The Bullish Case for Bitcoin." He had
Mhm.
I saw him give a presentation in Portland, Oregon, at a conference a couple of years ago, and he had an interesting story because I mean, so like your dad and other folks in the circle there. I mean, gold is an angle on a hard property. It's one kind of harder asset that people consider as an option. And he had a story about his family when they were moving and traveling and getting, I think, to Australia, but they were trying to hide all this gold on themselves as they got through security or on a boat, sewn in their clothes and all this stuff. Now, he has his point being that with Bitcoin, people in that situation and others, whether you're traveling or making a big life change, you don't have to worry as much about boundaries and your wealth, your store of time and energy so much. And there's just a magic to it in that way. Had you heard of VJ before?
I have not actually, but this sounds like an interesting story, so I'll need to check this out after the live stream.
And I think he actually lives, I think he moved from Australia to Seattle, interestingly.
Oh,
So
interesting.
he's
Okay.
actually up there now, I believe. And I don't know exactly what he's doing now. I know he's got Bitcoin projects, but yeah, he wrote The Bullish Case for Bitcoin. I've got the
Okay.
book in my bookshelf behind me, actually. But uh, now, thinking of Sean Clark and Australia generally, Australia is not immune from politics and divisive politics through COVID. I mean, you were in school during the COVID years. My oldest son is about your age, and COVID was a weird, hard time. And I mean, you saw how it went down in the States. From a
Yeah.
distance, we kind of saw how things went down in Australia. Australia has its, say, divisive politics, as America does. You had said that a system that survives on noise doesn't want you calm. Bitcoin, by contrast, doesn't need your attention. It just simply exists. So, do you find like Bitcoin kind of helps cure the black pill or some cynicism you can have? Like, so instead of getting caught up in that, you can be more centered around something that truly counts?
Yeah, 100%. This is probably my strongest belief when it comes to Bitcoin. It is very, very easy to get caught up in financial nihilism and the doom and gloom of things and fall into that rabbit hole of I'm never going to be able to live my life because I can't make the money to do so.
Hmm.
Bitcoin is something that lets you protect the money. I will say, it's not like an oracle. It doesn't have all the answers, but it's a very, very secure savings account, and your money is not going to lose value over time, and that's what matters. So when I was using that quote, I was using it I think in my Why I Believe in Bitcoin video. And this was also a lot of the sentiment that I was feeling was following the 2024 election in the US and looking at just how divided my friends were, how my peers were on, TikTok and Instagram, and everyone was constantly just yelling at each other all of the time. And it was a lot of noise.
Hmm.
And something that I think that I didn't realize in the moment was everyone was fighting the same problem. Everyone is fighting a broken money. Everyone is feeling the way that they're feeling because things are getting more expensive, and we just have different solutions in mind for how to fix the problem.
Hmm.
So when that realization kind of sat with me and I understood it, I was like, hey, it's no like use yelling at other people because they disagree with the solution that you have in mind, right? What you really should be doing is try to look for something that's sound, something that could actually work. And that is when I saw Bitcoin as more than just, an asset or an investment. I was like, this really is a savings account. This really is an alternate form of money.
Totally. And yeah, one Bitcoin equaling one Bitcoin. And I think time will tell. But as fiat struggles, I was just looking at a article that came out. Let me now. There's your X page there. On TFTC, an article I just got in the email today. But basically, Marco Rubio looks like he may be kind of a front man for our government here to discuss the reality that the dollar is losing reserve status for about half the world, as you know, BRICS sort of establishes its network, and Becent is pushing stable coins through the Clarity Act. Meanwhile, the price of Bitcoin is crashing, but there's a lot happening this year. On one hand, I feel like, okay, just thinking about the fiat price of Bitcoin and then some macroeconomic things going on, I feel like Bitcoin's kind of getting spring loaded for a real strong relevancy globally as that safe haven, whether it's money printing or world reserve currency competition fighting. It could turn into that asset that is of geostrategic importance, perhaps, because it's not like BRICS is moving gold around. They're still having to do some trusted contracts and paper settlement stuff, or, using their blend of local fiats. I can't help but think that they're going to have to settle on Bitcoin as sort of just what works. Seems like it would be going that way.
Potentially. I was able to have a conversation with James Lavish in the beginning of this month. And this is something that we talked about. And what he was saying is that he sees the world heading to a place where we might not be using Bitcoin in day-to-day transactions, but whatever we're using, say it is the US dollar, it would likely be pegged to Bitcoin. So essentially, instead of, a gold-backed US dollar, you just have a Bitcoin-backed one. So I do think that that's something that we could see with what BRICS is building with the unit. But I think we still have a bit of a way to go before governments are bullish on Bitcoin. As we've seen, a lot of them have gone back to buying gold, which is fair. It's definitely a better alternative than sticking to fiat. But Bitcoin, I don't think has the best reception when it comes to governments quite yet, unless the government is, Bhutan, because they're sitting on a lot of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I know. I think China's just got to be looking at Bhutan and going, that seems to be working okay. But it's hard to know where it's going, and I have to constantly. I'll feel like I have a low time preference, and then I have to step back and reevaluate how low really is my time preference. I keep feeling like, this year could be a real big one as money starts to print, and at the same time, it may not be this year that it quite turns a corner, but I guess we'll see. Now, how hard was it for you to start? Now you find Bitcoin, you get real excited. You're talking and thinking about it. You start thinking about it all the time, as we do. How hard was it to commit yourself to, okay, I'm gonna have a podcast. I'm gonna put myself out there, which takes some courage, and just clicking record. Was that hard? You do so great at it, because once you're going, I know you edit in little things, but you are able to present good long form steady stuff pretty darn well. So how hard was that for you?
It was really hard. I will, be the first to admit that it took a lot of work to get to the place where I am today with presenting information, and I still think I have so much work left to do. So the very, very first episode that I recorded and released, it was mid-August of last year. I think I re-recorded that one at least 20 times. I mean,
yeah,
I had booked out this recording studio on my college campus and everything. One day, spent solid few hours there just trying to get it set up, trying to record, and I was like, no, this isn't working. So I went back the next day, and then I finally got a good enough take to release it. Now every time I go back to watch that video, or when someone's like, oh, I've seen your very first video, I'm kind of like, no, why did you watch that? It
that
was
wasn't
so
a good
bad.
one.
No. It's the difference in quality too from my first to the second has like it's like exponential. Because it's just I was like the equipment I was using. I had kind of like gotten used to using the platforms and everything, but it took a lot in the beginning to finally sit down and just hit the button. But now
Mhm.
that it's been some time, I will say I really do enjoy it, and sitting down to record is honestly one of my favorite parts of my week.
Cool. Yeah, it takes a lot of energy, but it also gives a lot of energy back. And it's surprising what I found. I mean, some of the smallest little details that we're harder on ourselves than what people like necessarily notice, but little things I would notice about who knows what, like just the sound of my own voice, or like where my eyes are going, or if I've got a script and I can't even just read and think at the same time. And it's like, oh my gosh, like just being an actor is so hard. I can't
Yep.
imagine knowing the lines, saying the lines, looking like you're not even thinking about it, and then doing that for what, a solid minute straight. So it's harder than it looks, actually. So you're doing a good job.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you.
Now, tell me about you raise an interesting point in one of the core parts of your podcast is thinking in terms of systems thinking. Now, tell me if this resonates or if you've heard of this at all. So, there was a longtime podcaster. He died recently, Scott Adams. Scott Adams. He wrote. People know him for Dilbert, the Dilbert comic. He talked a lot about systems thinking and reframing things. So like you talk about with AI, I talk to a lot of people that see nothing but doom and gloom about AI. It's like, well, it's here. We're not going to turn that around. It's out. Cat's out of the box. So you can reframe things about AI into, okay, instead of looking at all these potential problems, how might you pivot and reframe that to be an opportunity? Um, Tell me about that mental flexibility and what you mean by systems thinking.
Yeah. So when I say systems thinking, I really use it more as just like a buzzword. What it comes down to in the very end is your mindset. It's the way that you choose to view problems, and essentially the way that you change your operating system, or at least as I like to say. So I something I like to emphasize on my channel is the difference between a Bitcoin operating system versus a fiat operating system, and how those two mindsets might go about approaching different things that are happening in the world, AI being one of them. With AI, I do understand the doom and gloom. I do understand, why people are scared, why they're worried. Obviously, there are job losses that will come with it. There are lots of safety and ethics concerns. But one thing that I have to say to that is that AI is not a new thing, right? This has been around for at least 10 years. And as Jeff Booth likes to say, AI is something that is exponential. And the only reason that we're feeling it in such intensity now is because, you know, we don't really understand exponential functions. So one thing that I try to paint, AI with is just the fact that it's now here to stay, and you quite literally have to adapt if you want to build a future. If you want to make some money, you have to adapt, because that's where the future of almost every single industry is headed right now, especially if you are in tech. Now, a lot of my
Hmm.
friends are computer science students, as am I, so we have to be one of the very first ones to hop on AI, because our jobs are getting displaced, and they've already started getting displaced. Right? No one is looking for entry-level software engineers anymore, or data scientists, because what they need now is expertise in order to work with the AI agents.
Hmm.
So yeah, it does suck that jobs are going away, and I understand the safety concerns, the ethics concerns, the environmental concerns behind AI. But now all that really, really matters is securing your future and making money for yourself and your, future families or bloodline or loved ones.
Hmm. It's such an amazing reframe to have. And I love your analogy to the operating system, because it really, it's like you can get stuck in your thinking with, describing it as an operating system, like the fiat brain versus a Bitcoin brain, and reprogramming, reloading your operating system and just reframing your brain and create a new system that you're running on, a better system of thinking. And just by the way, a couple of kudos coming out to you. Marcelo says, great podcast. Doing good job, Nicki. And that super kid, I had him on my podcast. He's in Scotland. And so
Nice.
likes to see you on some of the podcasts they're watching of you as well with some of his buddies. So I get so excited for youth in the sense that the sky's the limit in one sense, and yet there's these almost existential threats you might feel about where things going. I got a degree in computer science back in the late 90s, turn of the century. And at that time, it was like the internet was booming. The internet was the thing. So I'd go to school and we'd be studying our databases and our logical systems and the code. And then in the background, we just knew this thing of the internet was just blowing up, and we just wanted to do networking and stuff. And so it felt like sometimes my studies didn't always translate to what was happening. Do you ever feel that or share that experience with fellow students where you're going to school, you're studying your stuff? Of course, you want the fundamentals. And then meanwhile, you're coding and doing all this work and learning. And you could also go and vibe stuff, right? Or is there conversations about AI and is any of this going to like apply the same way, or is it worth getting a degree? All the things. What do you think about that?
This has got to be one of my favorite topics, honestly, because I strongly believe that computer science is about to change for good and for a very, very long time. It's about to change in a really, really sizable way. While I do think getting a CS degree is still useful, because getting this degree not only teaches you how to code, but it also teaches you problem solving skills.
Yeah, how to
and
think,
how to critical think. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, one thing that we do in computer science is not only do we have to solve the problems, but we have to go and find out what the problem actually is before we can solve it. Every single time you seg fault, you need to figure out why you're seg faulting. So even though I do think that a lot of my coursework is pretty outdated and there's not really a point in learning to code from scratch anymore, because we have all of these agents that can help us do it in like a fraction of the time that it takes us ourselves. I will say the skills that learning, I guess, computer science kind of fosters in you are very, very important, and those will be around to stay, maybe just in a different way than we see them right now. So I, talked to my dad, I talked to my younger brother who is 17 at the moment, and he's kind of in this time of his life where he needs to decide what he wants to do after graduating high school. And he's like, I don't know if I want to go to college, because obviously AI is coming in and I could just learn what I want to learn off the internet for like a negligible cost compared to a tuition.
Right.
And he's like, well, what if I want to do something I'm passionate about? And I'm like, that's all fair. But when all is said and done, I do still think degrees are important. I think they open a lot of doors for you, especially if you're in a field like medicine or engineering or even law to an extent, or even computer science, right?
Mm-hmm.
It might not be the best place to go and learn, but it definitely is the best place to go build a network, to go meet some people, to scout for opportunity. So, that's my take on college. I am very, very undecided on whether I support it or not. I think things are just changing really, really rapidly, and you need to sit down and evaluate all of your options before you decide what is the best move for you.
Yeah, it might be that when you're looking at colleges, you look at the colleges and they promote and want to recruit, and so they'll tell you about their leading edge programs and what they're doing, the cool projects. And important that they do. And maybe you pick your college based on that narrative that are they hip to the changes? Are they getting into AI? Even way back in the late 90s, the dean of our computer science school was big into AI. Now that was AI, that was early, we don't have, it was not AI like we have it today. It was just sort of like experimental ideas about simple logic stuff. It wasn't off and running. It was just kind of like, oh, it can kind of like navigate and try things out. But they were leading edge at the time in AI, and have stayed pretty, hip, you might say. So it might be that, okay, yeah, you go to school, but you want to pick a
Mhm.
school that is moving and adjusting their curriculum.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just comes down to, and you might experience this, but when I was in school, there were professors that were really trying out new things and like, here's the latest thing, and we're going to talk about it. And there were others that just had their spot, and that's what they taught, and that was it. It was just that 100 or 200 level class that everybody went through, and that was their bucket. And there was no changing going on. So it's probably a mix. And then ultimately, college is, it's bigger than the sum of its parts in a way, where so much of what I did get out of college was like you are feeling is, um, being an adult, living independently all by yourself, or out on your own, and integrating that with a lot of responsibility and discipline. And then you're meeting new people, and it's not just the classes you take, but it's kind of this experience you're having that is that building a new foundation from which to take the next step into whatever. And so, yeah, it may not be just that, well, this, some of the classes are stale, or, well, I may never use this, but the whole experience you're having, just the people you're meeting, a few key professors are really that ticket. And that's what makes college worth it, as opposed to some jobs not really caring as much that you got the degree, but you're going to be approaching those jobs with a blend of experience that is a gestalt of more than the sum of its parts. So perhaps
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
accurate.
absolutely. And this is something that's like not even new to like today, because think about like a couple of years ago, right? When you were graduating college and you wanted to get a job in somewhere in tech, you needed to have projects, you needed to have things that you actually built, you needed to have internships. So it wasn't just about, whether you went to a good college and you got the grades that you needed and whether you picked up the knowledge. It's were you actually applying it? Did you develop some skills on your own? Did you really take responsibility for anything and build something? So I think the same thing just applies today, but instead of, building so that you can get a job in the future, you're building so that you can make that into a career, so you can make that into something that actually creates value for the economy.
Totally. You can be certainly a mentor for younger brother. Provide him some advice. What do your parents think generally? I know your dad's proud of you. Uh, between both your parents, what do they kind of see? Well, one, it's hard having your child go off across an ocean, and be far away. That alone can be very hard. So you're having a good experience that way of striking out. Um, what do they think of you being into Bitcoin and doing the podcast and being off so far away in school where you're at?
Honestly, my parents are the ones that got me into Bitcoin. So it started with my dad. It really, really started with my dad when he started to understand it and start consume Bitcoin content around like mid 2024. Then my mom got into it. Once my both my parents were into it in early 2025, they got me into it, and then my little brother. And then I started the podcast, and now all of us are Bitcoiners. So it was a progressive journey there. But
Cool.
they are, I mean, over the moon when it comes to the podcast. When I told my dad that I wanted to start talking about these things and posting it on YouTube, he was probably the proudest of me that I've ever seen him in my life.
Awesome.
Like, I think every single time I brought home a report card and it was like all A's, he was less proud than he was with the podcast. So
Grades are fine, but you're actually doing something.
yeah, that's exactly his thought process as well, right? He was excited to see that I, was passionate about something, that I believed in something, and that I actually wanted to turn it into a career, and kind of build something of my own in this world. My mom is very much the same way. She absolutely loves that, I make content on something I want to make content on, and that I'm trying to go out into the world and pave my own career path as opposed to getting stuck in a 9 to 5 that I might not like nearly as much. When it comes
That's awesome.
to, I think, moving moving out to Australia for college, I wanted to go international, and my parents always knew that. And when it came down to my options, I was like, "Hey, I know it's really, really far, but what if I went to Australia? I mean, it would be such a great experience. The school is a great school, the program is great, and obviously tuition here is like less compared to tuition
Okay.
going out of state in the US. Tuition in American colleges is just crazy, especially if you know you're going to a good school.
Yeah, like you could go to
So
UW, but you could come out way in debt.
yeah. They knew that, I did not want to go to UW because I was like, that's the same thing as going to high school. Like, I want to
Sure.
experience, something more in the world. And I'm really lucky to have, supportive parents and the fact that they were like, you know what? Okay, you want to do this, so we support you. But yeah, they love it. They've come out to visit me here quite a few times. This is one of my mom's favorite places in the whole world. So I would say, we're all pretty happy with this decision.
Had you been out there before, or was it kind of a heard about it, kind of a shot?
We visited Sydney and Melbourne back in 2018-ish.
Mhm.
But like not since then, kind of forgot Australia existed entirely. And this was actually, I think, one of the last applications that I sent as well back in 2023. I think I sent it in like February, and then I got the decision in June, and I changed my mind last minute. I was like, I'm gonna go to Australia.
Exciting. Your
Yeah.
parents just they sound so awesome, and man, they really should be proud of you. If you were my daughter, I would be so proud. I just want to bring to point out your dad has had a blog for, in years past, but all the finance stuff, he is so informed. He makes me think of the kind of dad I would want to be, just knowing all the things and being such a good mentor to my daughter, from which you have launched your YouTube channel. So you can find your YouTube channel. You can search for Nicki Sharma or Orange Peel Pod, YouTube at Orange Peel Pod right there. All you got to do when you get there is go to that button right there, click subscribe just like that. You've got a lot of great videos. One that I enjoyed. Now it's like it's simple in a way, but it resonates with people where people that are thinking about the value of Bitcoin, and like people have people have unit bias when it comes to Bitcoin. They're like, oh, it's expensive, or oh, I can never have, like a Bitcoin and whatever. And you break it down really nicely here with the math in terms of the cap supply, who owes how much of
Mhm.
what. And granted, there's like lost Bitcoin, and there's Bitcoin that's locked up in various ways more and more. And it's moving from, softer retail hands into more establishment long-term holder hands. So there's that transition. And
Yeah.
you do some good math here where you show people how, like, don't set a crazy goal for yourself and get psyched out and feel like, oh, I'm just too late, I'll never have much. It's like if you had a goal of zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, that's pretty admirable. And if you could get zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, believe it or not, with some time, you may be set. Your family may be set. I've told people too, like, set a goal of like zero point 0.01 Bitcoin and get there. If you can do that, go for go for 0.02. And if you can get there and just you keep stacking, if you can get to zero point 0.1 alone, that is awesome. And then I also, like you mentioned in this video as well, just I'll between DCA, to short circuit like fiat thinking and feeling late, to
Mhm.
short circuit that DCA is really good. And also imagining dollar sat parity. So when you buy, $10 or $100 of it, and you feel like, well, that wasn't much, but you look at the Satoshis and you're like, oh, I got like 10,000 Satoshi or 100,000
Yep.
Satoshis. And then I just imagine someday that really means something. So
Yeah,
that's a good video.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. I think it was a popular topic at the time, and I do think setting your first goal as, 0.01 or zero point 0.1 makes it accessible to young people. And we have that problem with low time preference, so it's like, okay, zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, I can reach that in the foreseeable future. Once you've hit
Mhm.
0. 0.1, chances are you've built your conviction and your goal might change to 0. 0.2. Slowly and slowly you can build your way up and continue accumulating. So I
Yeah.
just think it's a great entry point to get young people to, start actually thinking about Bitcoin and start putting their money towards it and saving in it. But yeah, no, I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, just that savings mindset for students, when you're a student and you feel kind of poor or maybe taking on loans, but you're looking at the money, you go to do your laundry and you're thinking it should be a few quarters or whatever, and it's $8. Or
Yeah.
life is expensive, and meanwhile you're busy studying. Maybe you get a job, uh, but you got a tight budget. So the very thought of actually saving, I mean, not even investing, but just saving, uh, is kind of a hard corner to turn. What you're providing to people, and especially young people, is that reframe systems thinking from fiat to Bitcoin, where just to get off zero, and then just to DCA a little bit. It might not be much at all. What did you say? $10 a day here. So
Yeah, $10 a day.
yeah. So $10 a day, and then it feels like, okay, you just got a little skin in the game, and then you're busy and you forget about it and you're doing stuff. And then some months later, you're like, oh, it could kind of hit you and go, I can kind of see why I'm doing this. So
Yeah.
it's a great message. Uh, Super Kid says again, he wants to be that kind of a dad like your dad for his kids. And that's what I endeavor to do. Do you think you'll continue having some regular chats with your dad on your podcast?
Yeah, 100%. We already do a segment called Satoshi Sundays where, we kind of get together and talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours, just about whatever is happening in the Bitcoin and AI space in that week. In the
Mhm.
most recent one that went out last Sunday, we brought on my little brother as well and kind of talked
Cool.
through where his mindset is with college and graduating high school and everything. So it looked like, when I put that segment out, people really enjoyed it, obviously, because, my
I
dad knows a
loved
lot
it.
of stuff.
Yeah,
I'm so glad to hear that. And he would be really glad to hear that as well. He enjoys doing the segments. I enjoy doing the segments. So those are definitely going to continue happening. And I don't see them stopping at any point in the foreseeable future.
that's fun. And as you're learning, and then I mean, so just imagine he knows so much, and then as you learn and stuff, you're going to start to know little facets of things that you're teaching him
Yes.
about. And I mean, and what a great way to just stay connected with your family and continue that relationship, and then just talk about smart, fun, interesting things. It's just
Yeah,
such a
absolutely.
cool, it's a cool format to have there. So diving into AI just a little bit, because a big chunk of it certainly is Bitcoin, and now AI in a way runs parallel with Bitcoin and sort of this leading edge technology, and they're going to go hand in hand with each other. They're going to change systems separately and together. So tell me where your thoughts are as you reframe FUD around not just Bitcoin but AI. Tell me about how you see it impacting people your age or people generally when they're going through school, looking at jobs. AI is taking everybody's jobs. What is the reframe on that, if you can break it down, on capitalizing on the opportunity versus feeling like it's chaotically outside of your hands?
Yeah, there's really no fancy way to reframe this. I think any way that you put the fact that people are going to lose their jobs is it's going to be doom and gloom. It's going to hurt people. So
Mm,
I do genuinely think that while people are going to lose their jobs, eventually a lot more jobs are going to be created, but there is going to be this transition period because as we're adjusting to AI, we don't actually know what we might need in terms of jobs for actual people. What are, the things that AI is going to be able to do and isn't going to be able to do. So we are going to have a period of figuring that out. But at the end of the day, AI is coming. That is inevitable. I think everyone should know this. Just looking at like the evolution of like ChatGPT or something since 2023 to now,
Hmm.
AI is coming, and it's coming at a rate that we cannot understand as humans. We don't know where it's going to be in the next 5 years, or even the next 2 years, or the next year. So, when it comes to being Gen Z, if making money is something that you are concerned about, if that is something that is your number one priority, I strongly believe you need to be in AI. And that's
Hmm.
not to say you need to be like building AI models or anything. You just need to be using AI. You need to be using it to scale your business, to be more efficient with your tasks and your daily life. Whatever
Hmm.
it is, just becoming AI native is going to be pretty much as important as it was to be like digital native, say when you were entering the job market in computer science, or when my dad was entering. He kind of entered at the same time as you. When he graduated high school, it was Y2K, or graduated
Oh,
college, it was
I
Y2K.
remember Y2K. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So pretty much the same thing, right? Back then you needed to know about network, you needed to know about the internet. The same way now, you need to know about AI, you need to know how to use it. So that's pretty much all that I say on that. I really don't like to use, the use AI or you'll get left behind framework,
True.
but at the end of the day, that is pretty much the case.
Yeah. Keeping it positive.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's the whole thing. Is that we could it's easy for the human brain to imagine the problems or the being stuck, but it's staying positive, finding those solutions, putting in the work towards a solution that really counts. And that's where you're guiding people to, hey, don't
Yes.
get unstuck. You still have personal agency. There's kind of that, like in economics, that metaphor of like the K-shaped economy, where some rupture occurs and it benefits a segment of people and it does not benefit another segment of people, and so then there's a split in outcomes for different groups. I could
Mhm.
see, I suppose, AI being that way as well, where here's this big change and it's a double-edged sword. It creates ruptures. It also creates huge available tools and opportunity. And so, like, if you didn't adapt or learn it, or at least navigate it at some level, I guess you could get sort of stuck in a way where you're going to be working for the AI or doing something that whatever AI and robots can't do. On the other
Yeah.
hand, if you train yourself to know how to utilize it, build stuff with it, whether that's prompting it, navigating it, guiding it, creating stuff, just going and doing it, even as it changes, you're keeping up with it. There's got to be those jobs where, okay, yeah, the AI does a lot now, but a human driver has to be there somewhere, that it's not going to do everything all by itself. There's a human in there somewhere keeping it on track or keeping it relevant. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like staying relevant with AI as a person growing into this.
Yeah,
So
100%. One thing that AI is never going to be able to do is make decisions, and then I guess also come up with ideas, but make decisions for the most part, right? AI can probably give you a list of all the things that it thinks is important, but somebody has to decide which thing to go forward with, which aspect of something do we optimize for. So, my dad and I were talking about this in one of our Sunday segments. We strongly think that, we're going to see a rise in a lot of like manager roles, people that need to oversee AI and kind of tell AI agents what to do, what not to do, what to optimize for, what not to optimize for. So, I things are obviously going to change, but I really don't think it's going to take many people like completely out of a job. I think it's just going to displace a lot and then also create even more jobs.
yeah. Thinking about where some aspects of our fiat economy is going, and this was even, I think, kind of before AI, because we saw it in some other areas. But so you imagine ruptures occurring with AI, or there's people that feel through identity or otherwise, they don't they don't change to it, and they kind of get left behind, or they feel left behind. There are these pressures that can be things like universal basic income, or
Mhm.
you had a good discussion with your dad about stable coins versus CBDCs. The CBDCs being perhaps, mechanisms en route for UBI or digital ID, and all the highly, making individuals very legible. Um, that can kind of go down a dark fiat route. Where do you see also sort of an option for people where on one direction is kind of the CBDC highly legible government fiat route, and then Bitcoin becoming more and more of an apparent escape hatch or option? Um, it's like there's decisions down the road. Like I'll joke and say, like, which way Western man? Okay, AI or no AI, Bitcoin or CBDC, UBI, digital ID, fiat. It's kind of like, hopefully the opportunities and the doors remain open so that you can elect to choose a better and better path for yourself. And it's not that you're stuck, you just have to pivot. What do you think of the dark path, if you might say?
Um, yeah, you know what? I do think that that's the world that we're heading into. It's very going to be one way or the other. Um, we've been seeing a lot of things recently become permissioned. In, Europe, you've got you've got digital ID. Here in Australia, they've got the social media ban. You have
Oh,
introductions
right.
of like CBDCs, the digital euro, and everything. So people are trying to permission almost everything. Are you familiar with UPI in India?
Your dad mentioned, I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, they have it already in India, right?
Yes, yes. So I don't remember I think it's like unified payments, something, something. But essentially, what it is it's a fast way to pay pretty much anyone in India. The caveat is it's completely surveilled and monitored by the government because it's entirely digital.
Adhar, maybe that's it. I was just looking it up. Maybe it's Adhar is
This
India's.
is essentially, yeah, it's something like a digital ID, the Aadhaar card. They've also got this kind of payments system, which is what UPI refers to. Entirely just
Mm,
government control.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and so I think that one of the points that we brought up during that conversation is that this is already happening in some parts of the world, but we don't know about it. We don't recognize that this is just governments imposing more control and imposing more permissions on us. So what I like about Bitcoin is it might not be, the perfect other path for everyone, but what Bitcoin does do is offer optionality. It offers optionality for financial safety, physical safety, security. And that is going to be so, so important, I think, moving forward as the world becomes more permission and more divided. And in, the case of the US, possibly more unsafe.
Right.
So yeah, we're headed into, I think, a time where you're gonna have to go down one way or the other because things cannot keep going as they are right now, which we're already seeing in like the UK, not the UK, the EU, and
Uh-huh.
in India.
Yeah, and I hadn't realized that India already had that kind of a system, and yet India culturally does highly value gold. I
Yeah,
don't have a sense for Bitcoin adoption in India, if they see that as an alternative escape route or an option for them in India. I don't know. Do you know?
I think there's a really high learning curve when it comes to Bitcoin in India,
Hmm.
because obviously majority of India right now still lives in poverty. They don't have access to the internet the same way that you and I would have it. And because of that, they don't really have access to Bitcoin and they don't really know about it. And then the people that do
Mm,
know about Bitcoin, it is so heavily crypto is so heavily surveilled by the Indian government. It is very, very hard to put your money into that space. And
yeah.
then it's just, yeah, it's not the best position to be in. I do know that there are some exchanges that are trying to get into India, and some Indian exchanges that are coming up to try and encourage Bitcoin adoption in the country. But I would say they're still behind culturally when it comes to Bitcoin.
Yeah, there can be a real legacy traditions, if you will, traditional like what's acceptable to do or try. And then you need the technology and infrastructure to be
Yeah.
able to just access it. So there's some barriers or challenges that way, I suppose. But then a lot of people like the Marcelo, who mentioned the things about Argentina. Like in Argentina, I think of Africa, a lot of Latin America, and then other countries, they discover Bitcoin a little more authentically or quickly, perhaps when they need it. So sometimes some of
Yeah.
these countries that we're in, like in America or and maybe Australia, but it's like we kind of feel like, our fiat's pretty good. And you're weighing what you see as volatility or risk. And it's like, well, our fiat's still like better fiat and you don't need it as much. But if things change, and whether that is CBDCs or the decline of fiat, money
Mhm.
debasement, and prices of things, it could be that people simply gravitate towards Bitcoin because they're starting to feel it. They start to just need it, and as we need it, you can't close that door. It simply keeps running. And so it may become more and more apparent to people over time that we start to need it. So that might drive some adoption.
Yeah, 100%. This is something that didn't really click for me until I had a conversation with Paula
Oh
from the
yeah.
Bitcoin Edge, who
Hmm.
she obviously grew up in Zimbabwe and she's kind of seen hyperinflation and what that does to an economy, right?
Yeah, I
For
have this
us
at my desk
who,
here.
yep,
Five
yep,
hundred million
exactly.
dollars right there, Bank of Zimbabwe.
And that is so insane, I think, for us to comprehend, because imagine 500 million like US dollars. That is enough to retire me and my family and like future generations
Oh, it's
for
crazy.
quite some time. So it's an absolutely insane world to me, the world of hyperinflation and everything. And this is something that people in, the US or even in Australia, we don't think that it can happen to us, because
Right,
we're like, oh, our governments are so stable, our currency is stable. Yes, there's inflation, but it's reported to be only 2 to 3% a year. So
right,
that's what normal, or we're
right.
safe. Um, when the fact of
Normal
the matter is
inflation.
nobody is safe.
Right. Yeah, inflation's
um,
just a little bit of inflation is good, right? It's normal.
yeah,
Wait,
they
why
keep
why
for a healthy economy.
yeah, you want to incentivize people to spend more, and don't save that. Go spend. Um
Yes, yes.
yeah, just thinking of all those thoughts like what your dad brings up. But so man, the well, like that article I posted that I saw just today about from TFTC about, the perhaps the decline of other countries or anybody wanting to buy US Treasury bonds or anything, or the decline of the global the reserve currency, or competition from BRICS. And then it just sort of people are, money and the Cantillon effect or otherwise, it seeks that safe haven. So, and that's where I feel bullish about Bitcoin, is that over time, these games that are being played over the fiat capture system are going to not work as well. And yet Bitcoin will simply remain with the same fixed rules, and it'll continue to create a great realignment, and more people will steadily be seeing that. And more people are going to be watching your podcast to hear what you're saying about everything from education to the mindset, flexibility of mind, and positive mental attitude, and what to do about it. So you'll probably have plenty of
I surely
content.
hope so.
You're going to have lots of
No,
content to cover.
it's already getting a lot. There's so many times where I see like a post that's gone viral on X, and I'm like, okay, add that to my list of things that I need to touch on in a video coming up for the week. There are so
Yeah.
many things that are happening and so many conversations that I want to have, and I think that's one of the best parts about being in the content space, which 100% you've probably felt as well. Just having the conversations and getting to hear different perspectives and stories from people is the best part.
Yeah, you learn a lot. I've been learning a lot.
Yeah.
Uh, Marcelo says that people who work for other countries here prefer to be paid in USDT, which is interesting, a stable coin. And current annual inflation is 32%. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So anyway,
Wow.
people are going to want something better, and they're going to be looking for who are the people out there who know better. Well, that's people like you. So they can find you as we land this plane here, and respectful of your time, on YouTube. Like I said, Orange Peel Pod. You've got lots of regular content, both guests and educational, and a mix of stuff. The Sunday Satoshi talk with your dad. That's been my favorite just lately. I love listening to the two of you. It's such a great dynamic. You can be found on X again at Orange Peel Pod. You keep your content up there, and hey, there we are right there. And so all of your content and thoughts and stuff as you post there, it's a great feed to follow. You are on Instagram as well. So if people go to Instagram, they can find you at Orange Peel Pod. So these are all the different ways to connect with you. Anything else I'm missing if people are looking on more of Nicki Sharma?
No, that would actually be about it. You can read. I'm pretty active on all three of those platforms. So YouTube comments, X, anything, Instagram, DMs or anything. Yeah, I will definitely looking forward to getting in touch with some of you guys.
That's awesome. Nicki, I'm so proud of what you're doing. You're putting in a lot of work. I mean, school alone can be a lot, and managing independent life is a change. But are you looking at possibly graduating this year or this at the end of the
Yes,
year?
in December.
Awesome. So putting in that final push, that proof of work to graduate. And then the sky's the limit. And as you do your podcast, like I said, you're doing such amazing, great work. Your family has all the reason in the world to be so proud of you. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and if she turns out anything like you, I would be so proud as well as your parents are. So I very much appreciate you joining me. It's been so great to have you, that fresh, young Gen Z energy, and someone at your age who is as awake and smart and curious as you are. You couldn't ask for better. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I had such a good time getting to chat with you.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody. And we will catch you again next time. And thanks, Nicki. And we'll see you downstream. Bye.
Absolutely.